Hello everyone, my name is Pat. Welcome to my channel. Today I will be sharing with you guys my reading stats so far in the first quarter of this year. So I track my reading through Storygraph, Goodreads, and Compile. Although in Storygraph you do have stats available, like it's already done for you, some of the information are missing, so it doesn't really reflect in the graph, of course, especially when there are like pages missing or year publication missing, etc. So I do use Compile. It is a reading tracker spreadsheet made by Book Roast, and I've been using it since I think 2 years ago, and it has really improved over the years. I really like the spreadsheet because it has enough information that I need, but also it has extra information for other people who want to track other things with their reading. So I will be using mainly the Compile that I have. So it is a spreadsheet, so everything about the book is going to be input by you or by me who's using it. And Compile stands for the rating system, which is character, atmosphere, writing, plot, intrigue, logic, and enjoyment. That's where it kind of started, but it has grown quite a bit over the years. It's been, I think, 3 years now or 4 since Compile started. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first quarter of the year, for January, I read a total of 11 books. In February, 14 books, and March, 18 books. So the total books I read this year, including DNFs, is 43, and excluding is 42 because I only DNF'd 1 in March. In terms of pages read, I don't particularly interested in keeping track of my pages read, but for my total pages for this year is 12,804. In January, I read 3,964. February, I read 4,274. And in March is 4,566. I think it also includes the DNF that I have here. So if I calculate this, my average length is just a little under 300 because I did read quite a bit of mangas and manhwas that I counted the chapters as 1 page, even though if you put them in books, probably not going to count as 1 page, but you know, they don't really have page numbers. And then I DNF'd only 1 book so far this year, 1 in March, and I haven't really input the hours I listened. I did listen to a couple of audiobooks, but not fully. I usually listen to audiobooks with a physical book or like with an ebook so that I can listen to it while I'm doing something else. And I would say I probably listen a total of 5 hours so far in audiobook. I haven't really been listening to with audiobooks, maybe 5 to 8 hours, but that's sped up. And I usually listen twice, if not more than twice, the speed. Language read in is still English because I only mainly read English, and my reading method is 60.5% ebook and 39.5% physical. And I think a large part of the ebook part is arcs that I read. That's why it's a lot higher than physical. And then in terms of genre, my biggest genre is fantasy, or my largest genre is fantasy, which is expected. So 37.2% fantasy, and then the next is also expected. 27.9% is romance. Next to that is historical fiction. I read 7% of my reads as historical fiction. And then next to that is magical realism, science fiction, non-fiction, and literary, each with 4.7%, and biography is 2.3%. And then book length, most of my books are in a 300 to 350 pages mark. Next is under 100, which again is manhwas mainly, I think. And then next to that is 350 to 400, and 200 and 250. So I mean, 300 to 350 is the average length of books. So I read across 11 different genres, and I read a total of 11 translated books, again including manhwas and mangas. And book format is 81.4% novels, 16.3% manga, again manga and manhwas I counted as the same, and then 2.3% novellas. I've been reading a lot of manhwas and mangas. I didn't really count them when I first started reading them, I think 2 years ago. Did I only start 2 years ago? Yeah, I started 2 years ago, not last year. I didn't count them back then. And back then there weren't really a lot of completed ones that I have read, and it is only this year that I counted, you know, the ones that I completed reading that are completed. A lot of the manhwas that I read, majority of them are ongoing. I have a few that have finished, but because I read them in a span of like probably 2 years and 2 years since I started, I didn't really count them as read during this month, even though I finished them. There were a lot that finished this month and last month, or March and February. And I think even now in April, there's a lot that are still ending or about to end soon. Of the translated books, 72.7% are Korean, 18.2% is Japanese, and 9.1% is French, which is just one, essentially just one. And then books per publisher, I don't really particularly keep track, or am particular about keeping track of this, especially because a lot of these are under like the Penguin book group. So they're an imprint of Penguin Books. Like, I feel like majority of these could be put under Penguin, so I don't particularly look at this. So star ratings. So the first graph here, or the first pie chart, are the ratings that are whole numbers. So it's rounded up, and it also now has the half star ratings, but again, they only have the half star ratings. I also do use the quarter stars ratings. So 54.8% are 5 stars. I'm pretty sure that there are like 4.75 stars in here, and then 31% 4 stars and 14.3% 3 stars. When we include the half stars, 54.8% are 5 stars, 19% are 4 stars, 11.9% are 4.5 stars, 7.1% for 3 and 3.5 stars. Again, these are rounded up, so in terms of the star ratings, it's not the most accurate. Okay, let's see. Age category. Most of my books are adult, which is quite right. So 53.5% is adult and 41.9% young adult. So still kind of half-half. And I have one that is new adult and 2.3% for new adult. It is not showing it here. 2.3% as well for middle grade. And then for publication year, 44.2% are released this year. Again, these are mostly ARCs, if not all ARCs. And then next to that are books released last year, so 18.6%, and then 16.3% are released in 2022, 7% released in 2016, 4.7% released in 2017. And I have a few more ones that is not included and not shown in here. 2.3% released in other years. So one is 2019. I don't know what the other ones are, but next one. Okay, LGBTQ plus rap. 53.8% is absent, and then 19.2% main characters and 26.9% present, which is one of the characters, are part of the LGBTQ community. And the breakdown of the LGBTQ rap, I think, is not very accurate because sometimes it's not explicitly stated what their orientation are. So, 45.5% is gay, 27.3% lesbian, 9.1% transgender, 18.2% bisexual. In terms of disability rep, 33.3% of the disability rep are found in the main characters, and 66.7% are just present in the other characters in the book. Now, again, with the breakdown, I know that this is not 100% right because I didn't really break down some of the disability rep that I've seen because I wasn't sure how to put them as. So one is autism and one is chronic illness. And I know that I have a deaf main character as well. I don't know why it's not showing here, but I definitely put it there. Okay, in terms of how I got it, 48.8% I own, which is great. 34.9% are ARC, which also again makes sense. I read quite a lot of ARCs this year so far. And 16.3% are from the library, which is also great. So I haven't really done any rereads so far this year. In terms of series, I started 6 series this year. I read 4 sequels this year, and I finished one series so far. So most of my books are standalones. 74.4% are standalones, and then the rest are 25.6% are series. I feel like I read much more series, but I guess not. And then POC author. So 76.7% of the authors that I've read from are POC, and 23.3% are not. So the breakdown itself, most of the POC that I've read are Korean, again, because of the manhwas, and I think Koreathon as well. So 37.5% are Korean, and then 15.6% Mexican. I think this is mainly 𝐶 Garcia. And then Chinese, 15.6%. Black is 9.4%. And Indian and Japanese both have 6.3%. And I still have one more that I don't know why it's not showing, but I think I have a Welsh author as well, if I'm remembering that correctly, and a French author as well. Now, in terms of own voices, 76.7% are own voices, and some are not. But again, own voices can be not accurate because some authors, they're part of the LGBTQ community, they're not out, and we don't know that, and we are not privy to that information if they don't want to share it. In terms of nationality, 26 or 60.5% are American, which I expected. 18.6% Korean, again because of the manhwas. 11.6% Canadian, 2.3% each for Japanese, Welsh, and I think there's French there somewhere, and another one that I can't remember, but yeah, there's one more there, or 2 more. Okay, and then I read 62.8% new authors and 37.2% read from before authors. Okay, in terms of number of books, you can see all of these are just 1 book per person. The most that I've read is from Sylvia Miranda Garcia because I read most of her books that she's released. So 5 from her, or 11.6%. Next to her is R.F. Kuang, which is 7%. I read 3 from her. And then Matt Haig, I read 2, 4.7%, and the rest are all 1. So I read from 36 authors so far this year, which you know, makes sense, makes sense. So this is the stats that I have for this year so far, but again, especially with the star rating, this is not going to be 100% accurate, so I will show the story graph for my ratings because that will reflect much more accurately because they have quarter star ratings as well, but I still have kind of a lot of adjustments that I need to do for that, so I don't have it available right now, but I will show it up here in the screen right now. So those are my reading stats for this year so far. How am I doing? I think, especially because my goals, really, the number of books that I want to read this year is 100, and I'm already almost halfway through, and we're only in the first quarter or about to enter the second quarter, so I'm doing really good in terms of that. I'm not going to change the number of books, but next year I'm probably going to do 150 books instead because I feel like that will work, or 120 depending on how I feel like the next year is gonna go, but I could probably go to 150 books, but I'm not going to change it, like I said. In terms of the genres that I read, I need to include more. I haven't really read any poetry or classic books, and that's one of my goals. I haven't read anything of that so far. In terms of the nonfiction, I need to read more as well, at least twice, I guess, the number of books, because so far I've read 3. So my goal would be kind of to double that for the second quarter. So I'm going to read at least 6 nonfiction books, biography, autobiography. They're nonfiction, fantasy and romance, and I'm not really planning on changing it because to me, especially science fiction, magical realism can still be under fantasy, but you know, it's separated here. It's mainly just poetry, classics, and nonfiction that I want to read more of. So I haven't read any classic or poetry, so I need to do something about that. But yeah, that's it really, because in terms of other things, like I read mostly POC authors, and a lot of them are our own voices, especially with the LGBTQ rep. So I feel like I'm doing good with those other ones. It's just the genres that I need to work on and read more from. But yeah, that's it for this video. I really like looking at my stats, seeing where I am and how I'm doing, and seeing, you know, what I need to read more from. Like for example, I want to, okay, book format also. I want to, or where I got the book from. I want to read mostly from me. I want my own book in terms of how I got the book to be larger, at least like 60%, because that's, you know, one of my goals is to read more from my own books. Arc, I can't really control that because, you know, I request whenever I would like to read a book, and you know, I don't know if I will get the arc, so not really particularly like worried about that, but I'm being very conscientious as well of the books that I request, because I don't want to just request because it might sound interesting. I want it to be something that I really do want to read. I'm working on that so that it's not going to take a lot of my time as well reading, so I can read more from my own books. Library books, I borrow a lot from my library in terms of like the audiobooks in tandem with my physical ebooks, but I just don't put them here. I do use my library quite a lot, so to me personally, I don't really feel like I need to work on that. I don't particularly want to read a certain book length. In terms of language, I can only ever really read in English and Filipino, so a lot of that. But yeah, I feel like I'm doing really good. Again, it's just really the genre and where I got the book that I need to work on, but it was a lot of fun. I like looking at these numbers and these graphs. These are so much fun. That's why I like inputting my data in here and seeing how it changes, especially now that I'm going to be comparing it and having copies for the first quarter and stuff. So yes, that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you guys also enjoy doing these stats and what you use to keep track of your reading. I enjoy doing this because data, and I love the way that it's interpreted and all of those things. It's a lot of fun. It's probably the nerd in me. But yes, that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on the next one.